Just in case you wanted to know. So weird.
So creepy.
So weird.
All right, here we go.
All right.
3, 2, 1. With the programming, I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grundler.
Wolverine.
And this is Behind the Programming, the Fittest in Cape Town. We had our last two semis go last weekend with the Torium Pro and the Mac, which was so awesome.
Dude.
To watch go down, especially after talking to those two competition directors.
You know, it's fun to see, and this is not the same thing for us. Like, you come up with this plan with your program, whatever you think it might be and what it looks like on paper and what you're envisioning it in your head. And then when you actually, even with all the badass architectural drawings and engineering drawings that they had set up, but the way it actually looked and how it played out was such a good show. Oh, man.
Yeah, and for both, like the Torium Pro, they had that competition floor that Dubai has.
Yeah,
tiled, basically like screen printed competition floor.
Yeah, that was really cool. It's what they were saying, like it's their version of the tennis stadium down in Carson.
And that venue looked amazing.
Awesome.
I can't imagine how much better it's going to be a year from now.
Yeah, with people in it.
How great it was. And then you're right. The Mac was just, from what it looked like and everything, it looked better than regionals.
It really did. Dude, that venue, that venue stepped it up a notch. For sure. We've been in cool venues for the regionals for sure. We've been in velodromes and we've been in where they host in Spain where they do the tennis, the tennis stuff. So we've seen so many cool venues, but for some reason, I don't know, the Mac one just looked, it all of a sudden went to a professional sporting event. That big LED light thing right in the middle, the way everything was all placard up, just high, the seats just seemed to go up and up and up. Oh, yeah. It was just awesome. Super cool
job.
Yeah.
What Mike Towner did for Torium Pro, what Luke Espy and Wilson Pack did.
Yeah.
Mac. This is one of those, like, if this was a group project and we were presenting, I was like, if they were the first two presenters, can I not go third?
You're bummed.
Can I wait for a couple online weekends?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the bar has been raised, everybody. The bar has been raised for sure.
Bar has been raised, and I'm looking forward to what Fittest in Cape Town are bringing to the scene. Now, Bill, you got to talk to them this weekend. I wasn't able to be on that call for you, so I'm really excited to listen to this. I haven't even got to listen to it yet. So, one thing I do, they're not going to have a stream there.
Right. Yeah. So they'll have a live stream, but it's not a covered stream, like where you have the commentators and all that kind of stuff. So they will have, they kind of did something like that the last time, with one of their priorities has always been athlete experience. And so they're really putting all their efforts and all their finances and everything into making sure that the event goes off, knowing that, hey man, we're playing to a loss this year because we can't have any spectators. We can't do this. Dude, check this out. They're building an arena in a warehouse.
They're building one?
Yeah. So there are the three guys that are going here, and the two that I talked to, Chris Oman, he's the director of programming for the event, and then Leo Trindade is the head judge, and basically is the wall that Chris would kind of bounce ideas off of, like, hey, how does this look? How do you think this will work? This is what I want to do. And then Tian Visser is the event manager, so his whole deal is permits and figuring out how to logistically get this set up and get that set up, and so they have like 3 giant worlds all happening separately to make one big event happen. And they're really trying to make everything they can
Hey,
I mean, I can't wait to see it
on a live event at all. Now, what I do believe is happening is that they're going to get as much video footage as possible, and then CrossFit headquarters, and I believe Sean will be manning the desk this weekend.
Yeah.
They'll be basically like repurposing some of that for their update shows. So if you want to know what's going on down in the Fittest in Cape Town this weekend, watch the Games Central shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you'll get a full recap of what's happening while it's going down.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, it should be really cool.
Speaking of permits,
weren't
they like canceled last year before COVID hit? Like what was the
dude, they were right on that bubble. I mean, it wasn't as like right on the bubble like the Atlas Games was, where you're about to call everyone out and then, oh, whoops, sorry. No. But they were right in that same thing. And I mean, the same deal, you get some of these other countries that you try. I mean, thank goodness that I haven't seen, at least in our area. I mean, we got it bad in the US for sure, but at least that switch didn't happen with like in a day, where everyone just got the rug pulled out from under them. Right. But well, I mean, one thing I have to say, man, everything that I've seen that they've done, it has been an amazing setup. So it was really interesting. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it too much, but the guy who started the Fittest in Cape Town was this guy named Joost. Jopes, let's see if I can say his name right. Alszewski. Jopes Alszewski.
Yeah.
Yost. Okay, so he started it, and then he now is the Brazil director. So he kind of transferred one over, and he brought Chris in, and so Chris is running this one, and then so it's kind of cool.
Yost is like old school training department.
Yeah.
Old school training department. And yeah, that's crazy. I forgot he was in South Africa, and then he moved
crazy?
to Brazil. That's nuts. That's really cool. Well, I'm really excited for the interview that we have coming up with the Fittest in Cape Town as we look behind the scenes, behind the programming of the next two live semifinals that are coming up this weekend. Fittest in Cape Town, as well as the Granite Games be going on. Obviously, this one will focus on Fittest in Cape Town alone. But before we get that, we just had Memorial Day.
Yeah.
A day where, you either do Murph or you do a hero WOD. I know a lot of military friends of mine do workouts for buddies of theirs. And along with that theme, Bub's Naturals is basically a company that is a memorial or a memorandum to Glenn Doherty, right? Glenn Bubs Doherty. Like that was his call sign. Navy SEAL, lost his life in Benghazi, heroically defending this country. And after, Memorial Day, where we sit back and reflect and thank those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms, the fact that we can just sit here and talk about anything that we want to is dedicated to those people. And Bubs is a company dedicated to that. They're dedicated to the service. They give 10% back to charities, specifically foundations dealing with the military, on every purchase that you make. And we are, I'm just honored to be a part of a company that has that lifestyle, that has that mantra, and that stands for something like that with Bubs Naturals.
Totally. And if you go back to their Instagram post, they have a post up for that. And it was, I mean, when you hear certain things, like, it's just really touching. I mean, it was like, Sean, who's the owner of the company, is like, hey, he's like, Bubs, we miss you every day, and had a picture of him there. And it was, I mean, I know the whole history of the company. I get it. You hear about all that stuff. But when you see things like that, you see just how real and how true to heart it really is. And it's just really cool. Great company, man.
Great company. We're proud to be just partnered with them as we go on this journey together. If you guys want to get 20% off Bubs Naturals, their MCT oil powder, their collagen protein, their Fountain of Youth formula, their new apple cider vinegar gummies, which I don't try, but I really want to.
I know.
Use the code GET20 for 20% off every order. And as we move from that, some exciting news, Bill. Let's bring this back up to a high. The thumb tape is back.
I got my thumb tape.
Thumb tape is back in stock, ladies and gentlemen. Not only back in black, little AC/DC reference. But it is back in a new color, or all colors of what we discussed earlier. They now have white Element 26 thumb tape. So go to element26.co and use the code GETWITH15 for 15% off all U.S. orders, and get some tape before it runs out, because it ran out the last time we previewed this.
Yeah.
Wait 2 weeks. So if you guys are missing it, get to element26.co right now. Use the code GETWITH15 and get 15% off that thumb tape immediately.
Oh man, I got mine. Stoked. Because I was down to the wire. I was like scrounging around for like old athletic tape. And
you have enough for Murph? Did you do Murph yesterday?
Yeah, I did Murph yesterday.
Nice.
You know what I did? Actually, I'll take this. This is kind of segue off the tape, but something else that they sent when they sent me the tape was they sent me sweatbands.
Oh,
dude, that was huge. Oh man, put it on the old wrist. Felt like a superhero with my little wristband thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, dude, it was awesome.
Here, let me
awesome.
Head with my arm sleeve,
because Murph is just. I mean, if you have good weather, it's not if you guys get your crazy rain or whatever's going on.
Great weather yesterday.
Did you? Oh, that's awesome. I know my brother did. It was raining. We did. It was nice.
Oh, and I PR'd. I PR'd my Murph by over 3 minutes.
I saw that.
I consider that like a good weather PR. It's like having a wind-aided 100-meter dash.
Totally.
It was below 90 degrees and 6% humidity. Does it really count that I did Murph in Texas?
Yeah.
Oh, and the fact that I used the Element 26 grips.
Oh, yeah.
I broke it into 5s reluctantly because I was like, I could sit up here all day if I want. But I was like, I have 200 push-ups after this, so I should probably take some breaks. So yeah, I had an Element 26 aided Murph PR. That's what I had. The thumb tape. I had the wrist wraps. I didn't have the sweatbands. I have my own, but the fact that they have those, I'm pumped.
Well, I know they just didn't have a red, white, and blue American flag one. That's why you wouldn't put them on anyway. I saw your outfit. I saw your outfit.
These colors don't run, Bill. Run. Now, I did run my ass off yesterday, and I say I PR'd by 3.5 minutes. But again, like we said, it's either video or it didn't happen. And
that's right.
Unfortunately, I didn't set up my camera. I didn't set up my WOD-proof app to prove that someone would actually want to watch 44.5 minutes worth of fitness.
I thought for sure you would have carried it around with you and videoed yourself as in hand, selfie stick, as you're kind of cruising around.
Project deal there.
Oh yeah, totally. But if you do want to improve, and when you look at Murph, you're looking at like the long elements, the high volume stuff, the engine stuff, and they have programs on the WOD-proof apps, not just to video your stuff, not just to turn it in for your online qualifiers and stuff like that, but they have programs in the Pro Pack that will build all those deficiencies that you might have. So if you have an issue with rowing, if you have an issue with your aerobic engine for long events such as Murph and that kind of thing, or gymnastics and high volume pull-ups are kind of a pain in the ass, for any of those things, they have 12-week programs that are built for you by like big names in the business, man. Tori Helgadottir, myself, I'm in there for old people workouts. They have rowers to improve your rowing, nutrition to improve your nutrition. It's something that will improve you all the way around. So the Pro Pack, it's $9.99 a month. Or if you use our code GETWITH, then you get 20% off a 3-month setup. So it ends up being like around $6 or something like that. And 3 months at $6 a month to improve yourself in all areas. Like, you just can't lose. So do that, strap on some Element 26 tape and double bub it, and you're champ. Yeah, it's like you already win the day. You win the day.
It's the trifecta.
The trifecta of winning.
The trifecta of awesomeness.
We want to
partners for the show, Bubs Naturals, Element 26, and WOD-proof app. Well, hey, let's get behind the programming for the Fittest in Cape Town. Bill got to sit with them this weekend, and you know what I'm looking forward to? Not just the behind the program, it's just the accents.
Oh man, they got cool accents.
And South Africans got
they got some cool accents.
They got some pretty cool accents. We already got some with Jeremy and Mike from Australia. So
yeah,
it's fun getting to talk to these guys. It's crazy that we can actually talk to all these event directors and head programmers from around the world as we get set to showcase these semifinals events. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, behind the programming for the Fittest in Cape Town.
Welcome, everybody. We are here with Chris Oman and Leo Trindade of the Fittest in Cape Town semifinal. Guys, welcome to the show. Stoked to have you guys on.
Thanks so much, brother. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
So first things first, so, we obviously want to talk about the programming and get into all the nuts and bolts and all that kind of stuff. But as older CrossFitters like myself and Chase, everyone has like a CrossFit story. Let's start with you, Chris. How did you get into CrossFit? I know you kind of have a good history with the Fittest in Cape Town and that event. So how did you get started?
Well, so I was like many others, a personal trainer back in the day, and was doing the regular, bicep tries and stuff like that. And I had a pretty successful business doing that. And my best friend, who was also my business partner at the time, he found CrossFit, and he basically, this was 2008, and he pointed me at a workout and he said, "Hey, what do you think about that?" And I said, "That looks dumb. Why would I want to do that?" And anyway, long story short, we did it. It was a workout 300. With 25 pull-ups at the start and the end, and I thought I was pretty good at pull-ups and stuff, and finished somewhere around 30 minutes. I went on CrossFit.com and I checked out the comments, and I think Chris Spieler did it in like 8 or 11, whatever it was. I was like, no ways. And yeah, long story short, that sparked an interest. I've always been an athlete, so for me it was natural to look into CrossFit as a sport. And 3 months later, I did the Swedish Nationals CrossFit Championships, the first one ever. That was a bad idea. I didn't get out of bed for 3 days, but
wow.
That's kind of how it went.
Wow. And then what about as far as going from where you were at that point to getting where you are now? What affiliate did you start with, and how'd that go?
So I was traveling the world quite a bit. I was lucky and fortunate to do that when I kind of found CrossFit at this time. And I got involved with Cape CrossFit down in Cape Town. I'm born and raised in Sweden. And I got involved with Cape CrossFit and started competing at that level, at regional levels and so on as well here. And I did that for about 5 years until Jobs to start at Cape CrossFit and also Fittest in Cape Town, moved to Brazil and essentially offered me to take over the brand. And and then I retired and I started getting involved with Fittest in Cape Town as a competition director. And that was 5 years ago. And here we are.
Crazy. What about you, Leo?
Kind of back 2011, it was pretty much CrossFit wasn't really known beyond South Africa, and there was a channel called ESPN. They kind of showed limited stuff on African TV here in South Africa, and we saw a bit of a glimpse of the games.
Yeah.
And we were like, what is this? And kind of go and do some research on it. A couple of boxes opened in South Africa at that time, and pretty much we joined one. My girlfriend at the time, wife now, joined, and that's pretty much history. That's it. Ever since then, we got into it. And we've enjoyed it. I mean, we're in Cape Town now going on 10 years almost. Pretty much try and train every day when we can, and some good banter in the gym. And yeah, that's pretty much the history of it.
Isn't it crazy to know that you guys have been playing with this thing for like over 10 years? Isn't that just the weirdest thing? I mean, this still feels like, I'm one of these like small little groups of people that, does this CrossFit thing. And it's like, well, actually, it's pretty popular, man. You're not in this little group anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
100%.
We were actually talking about that the other day, saying like, how long have you been open for? And when it came to me, I was like, oh shucks, it's pretty much almost 10 years. Yeah, it's a long time.
Well,
so, it's been around.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think that, as an older athlete myself, it's one of those things where like your brain kind of stops at a certain time frame, and you just keep saying like, oh yeah, I've been doing it, like 5 years, and then you realize like, oh my gosh, it's been like 18 years now that I've been, okay, well, let's get into the event itself. So it started 2011 is when the Fittest in Cape Town started, and Chris, you talked about how you were one of the first athletes that competed in it, right?
Yeah. There was 11 of us, I think, if I remember correctly, 11 male athletes, and I think there was maybe 2 or 3 female athletes that competed back then.
So it's funny because you mentioned it when I was texting with you earlier, and it's on the website too. It said like one of the first events had something to do about like skipping on the field and then deadlift. Something. Do you remember what the first event was?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact order. It was very cool. So Jobs started that, and like I said, he invited anyone to take part. It was basically meant to be both for the CrossFit community that was very young here then to get together, but also an open invitation to anyone that, I'm fit come and try it out. And I don't think there was too many non-CrossFitters doing it, to be honest. But anyway, we ended up on a field for event 1, and I can't remember the exact repetition order now, but we were all standing in a circle, and we were doing single unders on grass, which was a hell of a lot harder than we thought it was going to be, because everyone thought you could do double unders, and we're doing walking lunges into the middle and back out again. And like I said, I don't remember rep range, but that workout looked like a beginner's workout to most of us, and it smoked us. So yeah, that was the very first event.
Okay, so that was 2011 you started, and you said that you were I was looking back on some of the info that you had in 5 years as an athlete, and then you take over as the competition director of programming for the event. What did you see? How was the event? Let's look at the overall event. How has the overall event changed over a handful of years? Because I remember when you guys had the sanction event, one of the important things that you guys really wanted to give was that athlete experience. So as far as the event itself, how has it changed from the very local type of event to the sanctional type of event to now the semifinal event? What's the feel? What's the what are you guys going for as a difference?
You mean the difference from now until, compared to last time, or do you mean over the 10 years?
Yeah, has there been a difference in each one of those 3 different segments, or how's it grown? What have you seen as far as growth wise?
I'm with you. So I think that like the first 5 years or so, it was obviously a very local competition. It still is to some degree, but it was a very local competition, and it was as it grew, it was very community based. From those 11 male competitors and a handful of female competitors, it grew into a huge competition with a lot of teams and so on as well. And we then tried to continue doing that while we were also back then in 2016, 2017, we started focusing on also making sure that we were finding the elite athletes and attracting them to come down to the event and competing no matter where in South Africa they were. And then that culminated, I would say, in 2019 when we were the sanctioned event. And the way that season played out, we were in a very strong position in terms of dates for a lot of strong athletes to come and compete with us. And we were very happy that we didn't have any restrictions. So we could actually take the culture of Fittest in Cape Town, which is always spending time outdoors and throwing surprises at people in terms of training environments and so on as well. So that was super cool for us. And then last 2020, it got canceled. And then now for the semifinal, obviously with everything that is COVID and the change of season in taking this into the semifinal circuit, if you want to call it that, it does change the structure a little bit, because now we are in an arena and it's all somewhat standardized in that format. But it doesn't take away the culture of the competition in itself, what we want to achieve, and being able, in this case, in the elite competition, focus on finding the absolute fittest in Africa, both on a female, male, and team side. And then what we had to do, which is obviously COVID based, we had to break out our community series. Last time we had, I think, 88 team, correct me if I'm wrong, Leo, but somewhere around there of 4 athletes. And we just couldn't make that happen at the same time as the elite competitors. And now we moved them out to after the games instead, and then we're going to be able to stay true to that part of our culture as well, and also being a very community-based event.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys have not just grown, but grown quickly. I remember watching the jump that you guys had from your normal Fittest in Cape Town event to the sanction event, and programming wise, you guys got after it. It got really colorful in this, the way you guys are doing the water events and the outdoor events. And I love the feel. That's one of the things that I liked most about the sanctional events, was that you could get the flavor of that particular culture, that particular area of the world, depending on what it was. And so you have athletes from all over that aren't used to that area, aren't used to the cold, aren't used to the water, aren't used to the beach, whatever, that now they get to experience that, and they really get to have a really fun time as they're traveling the world doing all that. Lee, what about you? When did you get hooked into the whole event?
I think 2016 I volunteered. 2017 I volunteered, and I think 2017 was the first year, Chris, I remember right, you had the rig on the beach, or a beach event. I think you had the beach event first, right? 2017.
Wasn't the rig was only 2019.
And that whole experience of just volunteering and seeing kind of what happens behind the scenes kind of got me hooked. And ever since then, 2017, I've been involved with the guys, with Tian and with Chris. And I think to hit the nail on the head, it's all about the athlete experience, right? Us taking outdoor events, programming, the kind of workouts for programming and sanctioned events were great. Some great feedback from all international guys as well as the local guys. And I think it's also great for the local competitors, getting them the opportunity or giving them the opportunity to compete with those internationals. So that was a great experience. And again, athlete experience is all about what they take away from the event. And I think we hit the nail on the head, and that's the kind of goal.
Yeah, it was super fun to watch. And even though, man, I tried hard to come over and broadcast with you guys. That was one of the ones I was like, oh, if I can get over there for that would be awesome. But even the way you guys had it, just watching from, the Instagram stuff, I mean, I've always been a fan of the outdoor stuff, especially, I mean, I'm over here in California, so I'm on the coast too. So anytime, you can have beach type style events, I always thought they were really cool. But between you guys, and I'll let either of you guys answer this, how is the program? I mean, obviously you just talked, Chris, about how, single unders and lunging was like the first event and, testing everyone's fitness. Give me a little, just kind of an overview on how has the program evolved from that? And then even both of you guys, I mean, using your experience, Chris, you said you came in as an athlete. Leo, did you compete in the Fittest in Cape Town at all? Or did you do any competitions at all, or just?
Yeah, it was more like a community series with a couple of teammates in the gym, and that it wasn't kind of elite like Chris and the rest of the game. So It was more just community based and they're kind of competing. So that was pretty much what we've done, what I've done lately within South Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, and I know that, Chris said earlier that you were kind of his sounding board for a lot of stuff. So how has the programming evolved from the inception of the Fittest in Cape Town through the semis and then even to now? How's it changed?
Well, so let me also pull in there. I mean, the Leo's story was actually, he was volunteering and he was judging, and I went to TN meeting and I was like, listen, this guy, I mean, we know him, but I said, this guy is on fire. He's no repping left, right, and center, but 100%
one of those
right
judges.
But 100% right calls. And the way he was doing it was no one could argue, because it was very clear, and he was very good at also making sure that if there was any questions, he could answer them very clearly. So we pulled him into the head judges team, and then the year after, we basically made him the whole head judge. Yeah. And I think that also then relates to your question, because even though I get to be creative and get to be the person who might be like, hey, listen, here's a set of ideas. How can we make these tests happen, and making sure that we are testing the right things, and making sure that we still honoring the athlete's experience, and making sure that we are getting the right people through the competition. All these variables that are so important to us. It's very cool for me, because I can always take them to Leo and I can say, hey, from a judge's perspective, can we do this? Can we do this right? And can we do this in a fair way so that the athletes get the right judging and so on as well? So yeah, he has a very strong part of that. If you're looking at the programming in itself, since the single unders, let's call it that, single under days. Now listen, we're joking about it. The rest of the competition was CrossFit. It was thrusters and burpees and rowing, whatever. So it was just that event. But I think back in the days, it used to have a mix of regular CrossFit and perhaps, how can I say this? I don't want to make it sound bad, because it's not my intent at all, but fun-based team workouts, carry each other and all these kind of things. And we kind of try to use that still, and we're still trying to take some small pieces and put that in there to make it a very community-based feel, even when you're doing the test for the elite, so to speak. So you'll see in the workouts, when we talk about them later, we have some things where it's the team can't put the dumbbells down. It's more done to test those things and the cohesion in the teams that we saw back in the days, in that sense. And the way it goes now is every year when you do a competition, I literally walk out of the competition with probably 30 new workouts. I'm like, oh, whoa, what about if you would test this? If you do this, that combination is so brutal. What if you do this, And then I use the next year essentially to, at the beginning, once a month, let's call it that, sitting down and going over these workouts and starting to finding the right ones that I feel is right. And then it becomes more and more frequent. And then, anywhere between, this season was obviously very different, but anywhere between 3 to 6 months before the event happens, I'll sit down with Leo and we go over, and he'll tell me hey, dude, that's crazy. I don't think that's good because of this, this, and this. And then we figure out the different way of doing it. So, yeah.
Did you guys ever butt heads on any, or it was an absolute, hey, I really want to do this, and then Leo comes in with a hell no, that's a no rep for sure from the head judge guy? That has to be changed. Were there any big battles?
I wouldn't say battles, but I would say there's definitely vetoes thrown in, but we respect each other. If Leo tells me that, this is not a good idea because of that, I'm not going to let my ego try to convince him that the workout should be done anyway, or the movement, or wherever it is. If so, we usually take a time out and we'll say like, hey, let's think about it. And we chat the next day or a couple of days later, and we go over a better solution for whatever it was, And I give an example. The trap that we're doing this year was based initially on the games workout, but it had a 2-2-2 3 minutes AMRAPs. You remember those? With the rope climb and ski erg and overhead squat.
Yeah.
So we created our own version of that back in 2017 was the first time. We did a new version in 2018 and we did a new version in 2019, which was my favorite. All the games athletes were convinced that they could finish it in 2 rounds, and no one did, and everyone died. So that was a beautiful test, And then I actually had a very similar upgraded version for this year, the same time frames, 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 3 rounds, finish this work, And Leo told me, I was like, we've done this for 3 years now. The workout is cool. We'll test amazing things, but do you really think that is the right thing to do? And my first initial thought was like, hey, my heart, I love this workout. Why are you telling me this? And then we took a time out, and then after 2 days, I came up with a different version that we now have fine-tuned into an amazing event, in my opinion, that builds on the same principle, but there is a completely different structure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I will be the first to agree with you that, like, as a programmer, and we talk about this all the time on the show, that it's a very artistic sort of thing. And so when
100%.
you build your little clay model that you've just fine-tuned and drew the face on there, and you made your little statuette all beautiful, and you show it to someone and they go, no, we can't do that. We've already done that one. That's dumb. And you're like, I just built this. That's part of me right there. So I get it, man. I get it. And I think that's great that you guys have, and I think it's important, especially for, these events, they become important. It's not just you're in the gym training, everyday training where you can kind of test things out and kind of play with them a little bit. I mean, they're very important events, each one of these events for your overall event. So the fact that you have a team that can, give the opinions and everyone can kind of come together on that. And, it's like you said, that's kind of push the ego down a little bit to, all right, we'll knock this side off of this event. We'll knock this off over here, or we can just scrap this and go that way. That's important. Leo, for you as the head judge, what do you think is the main difference between the sanctional event that you guys had to put together and then the semifinal event you guys are doing now, as far as the purpose of the event?
Yeah, I think in terms of the purpose of the event, we're still going to get the fittest in Africa out to the games, right? So that doesn't kind of change it. From a integrity point of view and quality of the event, we're still keeping it at a high standard that we have in the past, and we'll continue doing that no matter what happens going forward. A big difference now in this event is just from a planning perspective with conditions that we have around the world, right? And in terms of the timelines, and as well for us, we're Cape Town's known for, especially for us in Cape Town, known for the kind of events where Chris and programs all outdoor stuff, kind of take them out of their comfort zone, in terms of water and mountains and all that kind of stuff. So that's very different for us. And when we're actually having some volunteer work in discussions with the volunteers the last couple of weeks, prior to the workouts being asked, everyone was asking all the events in the same arena, and we're like, yes, they are in the same arena. And I was like, oh man, because everyone's used to that kind of the unknown, and something different, which is, I think, part of me is a bit sad that we're not having that again. But in saying that, I think overall what Chris has put through together, I think it's a great test of getting the right person and the right team and the right individuals to the games, and I think that's the main purpose of the event. And in terms of, I think from an athlete, again, on this whole athlete experience, I think that's how that's an important thing for us, because at the end of the day, we want to come Monday morning when the athletes wake up, they were like, damn, that was a great event, great experience, great volunteers. And at the end of the day, the right person got to the games.
That's awesome. Is there a difference, and either one of you guys can answer this, do you find that there's, well, let me go with you, Chris, since you're the programmer. Is there a difference in your programming style when you only have one person that can go to the games, or you have your multiple people, your podium that are able to qualify to the games?
That's a very good question. I don't think so, to be honest. You're trying to not stay at all subjective in programming in terms of like knowing the athletes. We do know our community fairly well. So you're trying to make sure that the test is not biased in any direction. I think that's the first and most important thing, to be honest. And I think that the way I look at CrossFit as a competing sport, is the most important thing is creating tests where athletes have a chance to prove the capacity. It's that simple. And ideally, if the test is well balanced enough and well rounded enough, it tests that capacity in so many different domains that the fittest person will be the best across. I'm a huge fan of all the years when Froning was just like winning by pure consistency rather than some elite performance in a specific event. So I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do. If you're looking at our programming, and again, we've had max lift events. We've had extremely specific events that are very tailored towards a specific domain of CrossFit. Most of our events this year, though, are perhaps mixing that a little bit. Like we have our lifting ladder, but that one starts with double unders. It's not just a gimmick. It's to make sure that you can lift in a different environment. Our gymnastic event, the 30 muscle ups, it's there, but it's also based on your capacity on the bike. And then it has a follow-up piece, which is based on your pure grunt capacity. So we expect almost like different athletes to be able to take points in different events, which I think is cool. And I think that to answer your question, then will still make sure that the fittest person is on top.
Okay. Which is, and I was looking back at the event, and you're definitely right. All of those are very, you can see the twist on all of those things, And when you put those together, did you find that you were needing to, did you base it off of what you already had in the open and what you had in the quarterfinals and what you think they're missing to go to the games? Or how did you decide what events or what pieces or what important things you were going to use to qualify your athletes to the games? Because the next thing I'm going to ask is your personal opinion on standardized versus non-standardized. But here you guys are. You guys got your blank tablet, your blank canvas to create whatever you wanted to do. How did you come up with what you needed to test these athletes, or what was left to test with these athletes to get them to the games?
It's a very good question. I think that my opinion is that, the 30 athletes that are now standing on the starting line, they all have 0 points. So what happened in the open and the semifinals is somewhat insignificant. We took inspiration from some stuff in there. I think it's cool to also have those red threads. So you see some of the movements and some of the workouts might even have some similarities or points that are at least connected to what they did in the quarters, as an example. But at the end of the day, I don't think that you can say, or let's put it like this. I didn't want it to be that we were only testing things that hadn't been tested yet because that needed to be tested. I think that the season takes care of that of itself. So I much rather looked at it where I wanted to create a broad test where the test is so broad that it covers the parameters of fitness that is needed to get to the games. Okay.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Leo? What was your take on all that?
I think, to be honest with you, I think Chris probably been thinking about these workouts since 1st of March, 2020, to be honest with you, right? He's probably had this kind of programs and movements thought out already, and every couple of 2 months or every 6 weeks, he pops me a message and it's like, hey, what about this for Fittest? I'm like, yeah, man, we're 10 months away from it. Sure, let's chat about it in 4 months' time. So I think he's always got information, and he's kind of his hamster's turning all the time, right? And he's popping through stuff, and we're discussing. And I think in terms of looking at the season, I agree with Chris's comment. The kind of season and the workouts in the season will always guarantee the right people get to the games, and at the end of the day, the program, the right stuff is tested for the ultimate winner. So there are some stuff that has been seen in the open and in the quarterfinals, and it will be seen in the semi-final in terms of movements and certain workouts. But I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, getting the right person tested and putting the right test out there for the teams and for the individuals to proceed and to get through the weekend.
Yeah. Okay. So then all that builds onto kind of one building question that we have been talking about on the show is the opinion of if the qualifying tests are to get the right people to the same competition, what is your opinion on a standardized version of tests versus non-standardized version of tests? So everyone did the open, everyone competed on the same stage, everyone did the quarterfinals, and everyone had to do 180 GHC sit-ups and a bunch of pistols on top of that. Now everyone is at these different either sanctional or semifinal events or online semifinal events. Just your broad opinion on is that the right way to get people to the games, or is allowing everyone to have these different levels of tests, different types of tests? Is that an okay way to still get the right people, the right, athletes to the games qualifying? Are they all being qualified and tested the same and correctly? What do you think? Both of you guys.
I think this is a selfish opinion because we love what we're doing. But I think at the end of the day, if you put Matt Fraser, now he's retired, but back in the days at Fittest in Cape Town, the test doesn't matter, right. He would win. And if you put him in the Torian Pro or whichever of the competitions, he would still do it, And my opinion there is that I like the idea of having different tests as long as they are governed. And what I mean by governed is that the way it worked for us, and I'm not sure how many details I can say, but we send in our workouts and we have the top guys at the games coming back to us with good feedback, In all fairness, they didn't want to change anything really, which is great. But at the end of the day, they also gave us a lot of good tools and hey, in this event here, if they move from there to there, that will enhance the testing experience because of this, This one here also, again, might be hard to judge. So why don't you change that from that to that,
Yeah.
And I think as well, I don't want to take away the fact that going to the games is a huge thing, but a semifinal is a semifinal, At the games, I reckon the best athletes will be there. I reckon that in most cases, the programming should not stop the best athletes from getting through a semifinal to get into the games. And at the games, the fittest person will stand on the podium. And at the end of the day, that's how our sport is designed. So I see that as a good thing. The other thing that I personally, now when I used to compete, so I competed for 5 years in 2 times as an individual and 3 times in regionals. The one thing I didn't like was that when the workouts were released and they're released at different times, so certain regions have 3 weeks and other ones have 4 weeks, right, or whatever the time frames were, right? And then you're comparing those times. It's not the same at all, So that also has a negative effect if the season looks like that. So there's good and bad for everything,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that's a good take on that. What about you, Leo? From a community, you said that your athletic season or competitive time, I guess, is in CrossFit has been on the more community level. What do you see? Because I think the semifinals we're bringing back the regionals. That's basically what it is. And the regionals, the beautiful thing about regionals was you got to see some very dramatic stories. Because it's like that minor leagues where everyone is scratching and biting and fighting to get into that top bit to get to the big show, So it's heated and it's exciting to watch and it's fun to watch. And but from a community athlete perspective, what about you? What's your take on standardized versus non-standardized?
I feel first up, I think looking at this past weekend and looking at a couple of the events that have gone on, right? I think you're still going to have a nail-biting finish. You're still going to have teams and individuals scratching at every inch of energy for them that they have to get through and do what they need to do. I think Fittest in Cape Town is going to be the exact same thing in terms of the roster that we have on the athlete side and on the team side. I am 100% pro non-standardized. I just feel that it gives it a bit of a uniqueness as well in terms of the programming, in terms of what we can do. And again, from a Fittest in Cape Town point of view, everyone's known that we go outdoors, we go do our own thing, whatever the case is. Chris does his programming. And I think I am 101% for that. It's just it becomes a known thing, and cool guys, we're going to do something for this Cape Town because why? Because we know it's going to be on the beach, or it's going to be outdoors, it'll be a great event programmed by Chris and what he does, and it's all that kind of talk within the community. And I think from that perspective, 101% for non-standardized.
You guys aren't biased at all on your programming.
Not at all. Super objective.
Oh man. Hey, real fast before we get into the individual events and even the team events, was there a common thread that ran through your events? Was there something that you built it off of, or how did you come up with your structure as far as putting the events together?
I would say what we kind of spoke about a little bit earlier, that this year, more than before, and perhaps by throwing things together a little bit more, I went away from specialization in any events almost, So once again, we had a clean ladder, which was really cool in front of the grandstands last time in 2019. Was probably one of my favorite moments ever. But that is still a specialized event in terms of lifting weights, and we still have that. The strongest athletes, in my opinion, the guys that can snatch the most will win the snatch ladder. You know, it's almost that simple, but we're still balancing them out a little bit more. So I would say if one thing I had in mind for all the events, and specifically when I had looked them across the board, was to even out the field in terms of specialization and making it balanced, 100% balanced. So if you're looking at the first event, and we'll talk about it later, we actually put the burpee box jumps in there for the reason that a bigger, stronger athlete will often do better on the concept 2 ergs or machines in general. And this now makes them also move their own center of gravity of mass a little bit further and a little bit bigger. So that kind of balances out a little bit, you know? So I would say balance was kind of like my red thread that I wanted to have all the way through.
Did you guys test all the events?
Not personally, but yes.
Okay. I mean, I assume that you would. Like, how much of the testing went down where you're like, okay, scrap that. That's not gonna. Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
You know what? We discussed the events more before because of COVID. I would say we discussed events more in a longer time frame between ourselves. That the actual changes weren't big at all. Like everything played. We kind of knew what was going to happen when we had decent athletes trying them out. Yeah. Some events, listen, the best athletes are competing. So some events we couldn't test with the absolute best. So we had to, use other athletes that may not necessarily have been the strongest in specific ones. And then you have to try to correlate that to what we believe is the high capacity of the stronger athletes.
Yeah.
But we didn't change much at all, to be honest.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, let's get into, I'm trying to pull this up here. Let's get into the actual events. And so, they gave you guys a range. The confines you guys had to work within. How did you guys decide to come up with your number of tests? I know they gave you guys a range of somewhere wasn't it like between 5 and 9 or something like that?
And then over 3 days.
Yeah.
I think that the initial thought was to have 6 events, so 2 per day for both teams and individuals.
Yeah.
And then the trapped version, once again, was then modified after Leo pointed rightfully out that it was too similar to previous years. And that actually turned it into a double event for us there. When we did that, we did do one change, which was then allowing the teams to have a double scoring opportunity on the barbell ladder as well, which I think made the test better in balance anyway. So that was kind of how that turned into being 7 tests in both divisions.
Got it. All right, well, let's get started. We'll go through the individuals first, and then we'll hit the teams.
Cool.
Unless you want to, we can bounce back and forth too. I don't really care. We can free form it, whatever you guys want to do, free flow it. So let's go ahead and get started on the first individual test. Geez, oh man, long. Let's just kick you right in the face with something long right away. Go ahead and give me the whole setup on this one.
So you want me to go through the points of the workout or how we thought it?
Well, give me what it is first. So we start off. I mean, geez, you have every piece of erg possible.
I wanted a visually cool event when you're testing something that's long, because it isn't usually super exciting to watch someone being, on a machine for a very long duration and then coming back to it or wherever it might be. So this structure was actually one of those workouts that I programmed in 2019 to some degree, and then some things has changed in it. But I was like, I seeing this then already when we had a version playing out with handstand walks and stuff in 2019, and we wanted this to be the longer test. So when we looked at it, we basically looked at the time domain we wanted, which was, let's call it long, but at the same time in the restrictions we have in terms of how many people we can have in the arena at the same time in these things, we didn't want to make it too long either. So the balance for the rest of the events, we think, played this out well. So the 3,000 meter bike erg, let's transfer that into the same duration as a 1,500 meter row as an example. We then put in, once again, those burpee box jumps there to balance that out for the more gymnastic athlete versus the heavier athlete, so to speak. And obviously, because it also sucks, sometimes that has to be part of the test.
50 of them? Ew. 30 inch.
It has to be part of the test. And that one, though, I will say, you asked me earlier, did we take anything with us from the quarterfinals? And this was definitely that. It had a little bit of a different structure where it was more burpee box jumps, but lower height. And this is much more fun. So
is it 30 inches for men and women?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, man. So you didn't change any, you didn't change distance. You didn't, distance are the same. Well, congratulations, ladies. Take some of them apples. There it is, right in your face.
Listen, the women are competing against the women, so it will all play out fine.
Yeah. So go ahead, list it out for us. Let's go down the whole list of what it is.
Yeah, so 3,000 meter on the bike erg, 30 burpee box jump overs, 30 inches, 2,000 meter on the rower, 20 burpee box jump overs, 1,000 meters on the ski erg, hobble along the finish line, and that's it.
Jeez, seriously, my goodness. I mean, I like how you have that 10-meter sprint to the finish. You're just like, get me off this floor already. Obviously, your long one. Was there any different iterations of this one? You said you had more bop. What were the number when you had the shorter boxes?
So then we actually had started with more burpee box jumps before the bike erg instead. So you take that number and you go up one, and then you had 40, 3,000, 20, and so on down.
Yeah.
I like this one much better because in essence the test was the ergs. Like we wanted it to be an aerobic test. It's an aerobic capacity test. When we look at it and we're like, oh, it's so long and so grueling. It is, but for these top athletes, it is an aerobic test. You know, like how much can they stay in a high aerobic zone and maintain that, and maybe even sprint towards the end. So yeah, I like this version much better, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's a good one. I mean, this is one. I think that there is enough. Like everyone is just on those pieces just long enough, so it is visually there's a lot to watch, and you can get into some cool stories. And right as you are kind of be like, all right, they've been on the rower a long time now, that everyone's getting off the rower. So I think I think that the amount the distances you have on there are real appropriate. One, to get your test, but also to make it visually appealing. And that's one of the weird things that you guys are tasked with right now is it's not just the test itself. You have to make it fun for the people that are watching, whether it's in person or if it's going to be, broadcasted or whatever, because that, I mean, it is what it is. That adds to how quote unquote cool your event is, that everyone either wants to come to see or wants to watch, is that. And if you're watching everyone doing the same thing, and you can't tell who's in the lead or what's happening, it just makes that event, even if it's a good test, a bad show, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think it's a great test how you guys put that together. And Leo, you can hop in on any other kind of stuff as well, as you want, if you want to like say, yeah, I thought this was bad, I thought this was good, or whatever you need to hop into. Sorry, Chris, what were you gonna say?
Now, I was going to say you're 100% right. So actually what happened last week, we got told by the police service here that we're actually not allowed to have spectators. We were supposed to have 150 spectators for a small stand on the sides, which would have been super cool. And unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that because of the COVID restrictions. So for us, it's actually all about a visual experience for spectators. Now, we said this earlier, the first thing we take in mind is obviously the athlete's experience. Like the test has to find the right people. I, as an athlete, want the test, as a previous athlete, I should say, want the test to be fun. This is not fun, don't get me wrong, but I still wanted to have a fun component all the way through. And then now lastly, a third thing to add to that is you've got to make this very visually appealing. So I hope that the distances are, like you say, they're short enough to still be watching. And then we have a few things where we're going to make sure that judges have specific signs so you can kind of follow along and see where there's 500 meters left, there's 400 meters left, and these kind of things. So we thought about that quite a bit too in terms of the live feed that we'll have.
Awesome. All right, let's go to let's jump over to the teams. We'll hit the teams test. So test number 1 for the teams. Go ahead and hit that one for me.
Much worse. Leo, you read it.
So I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, guys. So it's first actually goes first. So remind me which one this one is. Chris, for the team, this is row
ski bike.
Is that right? Yeah. So 400 meters on the row, 11 burpee box jumps, bike erg, 500 meters, and then land burpee box jump overs, and then finish off with the ski.
And you guys have that as a
relay
style.
Other way around. Yes. So it's a 500 meter row, burpee box jumps, 11 of them, 500 meter ski, 11 burpee box jumps, and then 1,000 meters on the bike erg in the end. And you're right, it's a relay. Yeah.
So for the teams, and I thought that was interesting that you started off doing that one out of the gate, where everyone, the relay style, I think that's an important way to test teams, because obviously it's going to call out your weakest, your weakest athlete for sure. Why did you pick? Was there a reason why you picked it to go that way first? Yes, actually, what you said.
So I've been competing on teams for quite a few years as well. And my experience is that there has to be tests, like you say, that's kind of like test the weakest link, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't want the entire competition to be around that. I don't want the individual events in the team competition to be the full deciding factor. We want it to be a team competition where team events and the team's ability to solve problems. So you're going to see that all the way through the rest of the events as well.
Right.
That's the most important thing in my opinion. And then I hope that you can still, if you do this smartly, you can still put them on the spot, that you can still allow the teams that has weak links to unfortunately be exposed, and the team that doesn't have weak links to excel. And that's kind of like, that's been what we've been trying to achieve with this. So I kind of wanted to get it out of the way immediately. I wanted to have it in there, but at the same time, I wanted that to be done with. And from there on, it is a team competition, and the guys get to work together. So that was actually the reasoning to have that first. And then, of course, there is a correlation between the individual and the team workouts. We have that for many of them. They're not the same, but they're correlations. We find that quite, it's fun. It's fun for the teams to be connected. This version is much worse. I'd much rather do the longer one than the short one.
Well, anytime you have to do something much faster and you're really put under the gun like that, I mean, yeah, it's going to be that much more painful. So good call on that. Good call on that one for sure. All right, let's hop back to the individuals. We got test number 2. This is that snatch ladder you were talking about. So I see, I pulled it up here. All right. So this is where you said, so 150 double unders, and then you go down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the snatch from 80 kilograms and 55 kilograms, 175, 121, up to 120 and 75 kilograms, 265, 165. 8-minute time cap. Man, that's fast.
They'll be faster.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why I'm shaking my head right now. Is, I mean, they will make this look so fast, because these are basically the numbers that we've had. Let's see, what regional was that?
2016.
Yeah, was it 2016? Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
That was kind of like the inspiration. Like I said, we had a clean ladder in 2019, and then I was planning for doing almost exactly the same thing with snatches for the next competition, which would have been 2020. And then we had, like, you have 3 different stages. So you have first 1 round, and then the top 2 heats goes through, and there's 1 more round, and the top heat goes through to a final. Now, that was kind of like the plan. And then, like I said, writing up 30 workouts. One of the workouts I really loved was that test, the one in 2016, and they had 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. So it was 30 snatches in that one.
Yeah.
And I then decided I rather wanted to have it as one sprint event. Show me what you got, and whoever has the biggest snatch capacity in this workout will be a lot faster than 8 minutes. Now, the cool thing I think as well is that, 120 and 75 kilos or 265 and 165 pounds aren't huge numbers these days for these monsters that are competing. No. But if you have, what's that? A 315 snatch, if you're an absolute beast, you'll be touching, going, power snatching this ladder and making it happen in like 3.5 minutes, Totally. And if the numbers are big for you, we're going to have some athletes who's getting stuck, or they're like, they have to go a lot slower. Someone might even get a chance at a personal best on the field in this competition, So I think it's quite cool to have that variance while it still is not just like, hey, how heavy can you snatch?
Yeah, you're right. The abilities of the athletes now are just unreal. I don't know if you guys got to see any of the Mid-Atlantic go down. Yes. Oh man, the guys and the girls, they were tossing snatches around. I mean, I've never seen so many guys get 300 pounds on a snatch.
I was about to say it was like 7 guys doing a 300-pound snatch.
I mean, that was like, it used to be if someone hit 300, it was like, man, the crowd went wild. Now, or the stands went wild. Now that was what? 20%, 25% of the entire field was hitting 300 pounds. It's disgusting.
Crazy.
They're way too good. All right, so we'll jump on over to the team side for that, for test number 2, which is a totally different version for them. So like you totally skewed from the similarity on this one.
Yeah, so what we actually did, if you look at the team test 4 and 5, am I right? Yeah, team test 4 and 5 is actually their clean ladder, which is based on this one. So we just moved them around in balance for the total test for the teams and the total test for the individuals, where we wanted to have them placed, so to speak. So they have a very similar version. It's just not in the same spot as place 2, as an example.
Got it. All right, so go ahead and read off test number 2 for the teams here. Nowhere to hide.
Cool. Nowhere to hide. And this is one of those we spoke about when it's just like, the team will be able to solve this together, and they will be able to take load off each other if they happen to have weaknesses, but a team without weaknesses will crush it. It's 150 handstand push-ups. And the way they do this is in a male-female order. They have to do 1 unbroken set, and then they will go to the tag zone and swap in the next athlete, which has to be of the opposite gender. And throughout this workout, I guess you could say throughout this workout, but also important to note, you could send in the same gender. So to not be sexist here, as an example, if you have a male athlete that isn't good at handstand push-ups, you could send in one male athlete, you send in the female athlete afterwards, and then you send in the same male athlete again. As an example, if you wanted to do that. So
it doesn't matter who you put on the wall. They just have to be a male-female pair. Got it.
Yeah. Exactly, right? And that's what I meant, that if you have a well-rounded team, they'll probably kick that off in one set each and they're done the 150. And if you have a weaker team, you're going to have to share that load differently. Anyway, so it's 150 handstand push-ups, 200 synchro wall balls. That is gender synchro, so it's either 2 male or 2 female athletes working. 20 rope clamps, where the first 10 must be legless. Again, it's male-female, male-female. And then they're finishing off with a 15-meter handstand walk. We call it a conga because essentially one athlete will have to do the 15-meter length, and then the opposite gender goes and does 15 meters until all of them has done that. And to make that more fun, they also have to do these 15 meters unbroken.
Man, there is as you were saying that, the strategies for different teams are going to be all over the place because it gets very team dependent, which I think that's awesome. I mean, so many events you can say, oh, okay, well, you put your strongest team here, you put your weakest team here, you try to hide your weakest link. But this one, I mean, there are so many different options of how you switch people in, when you switch people in. Man, this is going to be one that, like, they definitely need to know their plan before they come in here. Otherwise,
absolutely,
like, the strategy on the fly is going to be bad.
Absolutely. And if you look at it, if you're looking at a well-rounded team, and we're talking about the teams that are fighting for a spot to the games, I reckon that they will have, 2 females and 2 males that can do everything in this very, very well, and they'll probably share it fairly equally. They go for big sets, and they just do quick transitions, and they're going to fly through it. And a team that has a weak handstand walk athlete, as an example, they're going to have to save them because they still have to do the 15 meters unbroken in the end. And if you're saving that athlete, what does that do to the work that happens before? Well, it's going to go much slower. So there's so many cool variables in this workout. I personally think this is one of the cooler team workouts.
Yeah,
that we have.
It'll be a cool one. In a cap of 30 minutes, so you have a big chunk of time there for everyone to get. And again, it's a high volume. I mean, depending how you rotate it through the athletes, but I mean, it's still a high volume of overall numbers. So I think that'll be a pretty cool test to watch to see what everybody does. All right, hopping back to the individuals. Let's go to test 3. This is the legless Karen. God, anytime you have Karen in there, it's bad. Karen is just bad. All right, go ahead. Lay this one out for us.
So for time, you have a 30-meter handstand walk. It will be done 15 meters away from the rig and then 15 meters back to the rig, where they do 5 legless rope climbs. Our legless rope climbs, both here and for the team, by the way, is legless up and down. So we have a specific standard on that.
That is a big change. That's a big change.
That's a game changer there.
100%.
Man.
100%. That's why there's only 10 of them, right? Anyway. And then they do Karen, basically. So Karen is right in the middle here. We have 150 wall balls. They'll do those on 75 on one side and then 75 on the other target, so to speak. It gives it a little bit more visual appealing as well. We have 5 more legless rope climbs and then 30-meter handstand walk to the finish. So it's basically an up and down chipper.
Interesting look at this. It's a very push-pull event, which I think is really cool. The handstand walk, I mean, well, it's a pressing event, even though you're not really, pressing from a shoulder to overhead kind of position, but you still have that locked out position where you're pressing, then you go right into the pulling, then the wall balls is pushing, back to the rope climbs is all you're pulling, then your handstand walking. So man, this is going to be a dicey one, but I like the setup of it a lot. I think that it's going to be pretty fun to watch. Those last 5 legless rope climbs.
That's where it all comes down to.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. The 15 meters out and back, unbroken or no?
No, teams have the teams have an unbroken rule, but on this one here, for the reason you mentioned now, in terms of shoulder fatigue and all these things, we have a 5-meter block distance. So they need to cover 5 meters, and if they do, they can come down and then do it again.
Okay. Man, that's going to be a good one. Man, that's going to be good.
At least I can't wait to see when, like you said, the last 5 legless rope climbs, and you're standing next to the guy you're competing with, and he's going up, and you don't want to go up. Do you go up or do you not? It's a lot of choices to be made.
Man, and just standard 15-foot rope climb, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That coming down is going to be no one trains that way. And so everyone knows their legless rope climb and their pace if they haven't tested that often, like they're going to have to change the strategy just on that one piece alone. That will be, I think, the entire crux of that event. That one little switch is going to change this entire event. So, man, good work on that one. All right, let's go over to the teams on test number 3. The team trap. What's this one look like?
Yeah, so this one is the trap variation. We spoke about the trap before, which this one we actually have had also, I think last time 2019 we definitely had a version that was similar to this. I can't remember 2018 if it was a different one, but Leo, you can correct me, but I'll let Leo talk about it. But the workout is 150 calories on the bike. This is also done as one athlete goes, male female order, but they're done. So they can choose to do this any way they want to, as long as all athletes does at least 1 calorie on the bike, so to speak. So again, strategy is up to the team, so to speak. We choose that instead of standardizing that they had to do, what would that be, 45 and 30 each as an example.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, you send one athlete out, they go for one big set on the bike, they run to the tag zone. Once they get to the next athlete goes, and once the team has done 150, they move forward. Then the team has to collect 50 ring muscle ups. Again, male, female order. I think they might actually, no, it does not show there. That's good. It doesn't have to be unbroken. So the athlete can come down and do, 5, rest, do 5, whatever it might be. But once again, they have to swap to an athlete of the opposite gender. Very similar to what we spoke about in the last workout.
Okay.
And then they finish off with 50 synchronized dumbbell box step overs. So there's a male and a female box, and there's a male and a female set of dumbbells, and a guy and a girl goes at the same time. And the only way we kind of say that they have to be synchronized is that they have to be on the other side at the same time. So there's no other rule of synchronization, so to speak.
Okay.
And I think what's important, Joe, is the dumbbell rule, right? I think mentioned at the beginning, instead of the dumbbell can't touch the floor, even when they're transitioning and moving forward. And I think it comes down to the strategy of the team.
So as a team, if I'm handing the dumbbells off, they can't go to the ground to make the handoff. They can't go to the box to make the handoff either.
Nope.
Oh, man. What was where'd that come from, that idea?
I think that is a little bit like in the back of my head when we spoke about it, me and Leo, and I think we both done similar things. Even it wasn't exactly the same in Fittest and Cape Town before. There's been like these throw wall balls over targets, and they can't hit the floor and so on as well. So I think it's kind of like more like a culture thing, but it is to test the team's ability to work together. That's the main purpose for it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, communication is always a factor within the team competition and the team strategy. Just, I can see grips being fatigued from the muscle ups, just overall tired because you're doing your thing, and then you go to make that transition, and your hands get stuck together. You get the one hand under the other one, you get it kind of hung in there, and you're kind of jerking it back and forth, trying to get your hand out of there.
You can picture it already, right? You can picture it already.
All right. So what's the penalty if it drops? Is there a penalty?
5 synchronized burpees for the team.
Over anything, or just have to do? They just have to do 5 right
yes,
then?
we're that.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, they're done. It's just a time waste. That's basically what it is. We didn't want it to be like a huge thing,
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens, but they're still going to lose time and get more tired, so they don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Ooh, okay. That would be a good one too. All right, let's go back to individuals. Now, this is test number 4, the double trap for the individuals. Go ahead and lay this one out.
So it is a two scoring event and 2-part event. So the first one, the double trap part 1, starts on 0 for time. They do 50 or 35 calories on the bike, 15 ring muscle ups. They will then run to the other side of the arena, which is 15 meters, and they will bring one of the dumbbells back. They do 10 muscle ups. They run and get the other dumbbell, bring that one back. They do 5 muscle ups, and then they run the 15 meters across the finish line. They have a 10-minute cap for that one. And then on 12, actually event 5 test 5 starts, which is the part 2 of the double trap then, where they again do the 50 and 35 calorie assault bike. And this time they do, instead of the total of 30 muscle ups that you had in the first part, is 30 dumbbell box step overs. They do 15 over the first box. They then move to the second box, which is further forward, and they do the last 15, and then they carry the dumbbell over the finish line. So both of them are 50 or 35 calories on the bike, and then it's 30 reps essentially of either the ring muscle ups or the dumbbell box step overs.
Is there a penalty for the dumbbells hitting the floor on this one for these guys?
No.
Okay. Jeez. Oh man, I was gonna say, man, you guys would be just serious jerks. You guys would be some big jerks, and people like, screw that competition. I'm not going to that place. Can't put anything down on the ground. I like the setup on that. So a 2-minute break between the test 1 and 2. You have that 10-minute time cap, 2-minute break, and then you have this one. So 10-minute time cap for the first one, 2-minute rest, 8-minute time cap for the second piece. And man, you guys, any thoughts? Let's see. So what do you have? How many tests do they have with the bike? How many times are they using the bike?
So they only use the assault bike here. The bike in the morning is on day one is the bike erg, right?
Yeah, but you have them on every single possible piece of machinery right now.
Yeah, man, pretty much.
Calling out the stops. Okay, cool. Let's go to the team setup. So team we did it for. What was the fifth part for the teams? How'd that set up?
So the team, basically, remember we said we have the barbell ladder, which in the team's case is a clean and not a snatch, but it's the same principle. So it's the same workout, but the women does it separately and the men does it separately.
That's right.
So it has a very similar setup as the individuals, I should say, snatch ladder. But instead they're actually doing double unders in between. And now because they're working in pairs, so they're working in gender pairs, they do. I can read it out to you, but there's 100 double unders, 10 cleans at the lighter load, which is 90 kilos for men and 60 for women, 80 double unders, 8 cleans at 100 kilos for men, 65 for women, 60 double unders, 6 cleans at 110, and 70 kilos, 40 double unders, 4 cleans at 120 for men and 75 for women, 20 double unders, 2 cleans for men at 130, for women at 80 kilos.
When they're doing this, is that waterfall style? They have to get all the way through and then the next athlete goes, or do they go at the same time? How do they do that?
No, so it's actually 2 events. So the women will go first, the men will actually go first, and they will compete separately. So the men will compete against the men and we'll run through those heats, and that's actually 100 points. And then after that, the women goes in their separate event, if you want to call it that, where they compete against the women.
But as far as when the men go, how do the 2 athletes set up on the floor? Is it one goes all the way through, or do they both go through?
They both go together. They can share this any way they want to as well. Yeah.
Okay. Man, that'll be fun. That'll be fast.
That's the point.
That'll be fast. and it's good because like the teams don't normally get fast on this, because you're always running them through, or there's relaying, or they're waterfalling or whatever. So they never really get a chance to have an all-out sprint. The fact you guys made that a double scored event, it's same 100 points on each one?
Yeah. 100 points on both of them.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good one.
And the cool thing about it is that same thing as, you asked me about themes. And if you're looking at the themes for the team competition, it's like, if you have 2 strong athletes, they'll crush this one. They'll sprint through it. And without me giving away any strategies, they'll probably share it pretty well, Yeah. And if you have any athlete that can't move these loads efficiently or gets too heavy, that team will probably suffer a bit,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we are making our way back to the individuals. We're going to test number 6 here, pinball. What's this one all about? As you guys start giggling.
Isn't this your favorite one, Chris?
To some degree it is.
All right, so lay this one out. Give us the stats on this one.
So essentially, look, if you're looking at the numbers, first of all, it's going to look crazy, but there is a theory. I'm a maths nerd, so the numbers always correlate somehow, and this one goes upwards in reps, but they are correlated, so to speak. So it is 9 dumbbell handstand push-ups. So they do the handstand push-ups on top of the dumbbells. They then do 18 D-ball cleans, so that's twice as many as handstand push-ups. We have a standard with this movement where they actually do it to alternating shoulders. So what it means is it's actually let's call it a standard clean. Instead of throwing it over your shoulder, they just have to mark it on top of their shoulder while they're standing tall. They bring it down to the floor and they can go up to the other shoulder. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it's faster because they can cycle it. They can basically go touch and go reps. And secondly, movement standard wise, it becomes easy for our judges to see if they're standing tall with the ball on top of the shoulder instead of throwing over, so to speak.
Got it.
So with this rep range, it made sense. And it's a fairly light load. It's 50 and 30 kilos, so 110 and 65-ish pounds.
Yeah.
After that, they do 27 alternating pistols. That's 3 times as many as the handstand push-ups, as an example then. And then they have the 2 dumbbells again. And this time they're only carrying them, but they carry one in an overhead position and one in a front rack position. They do that for 15 meters, so across the arena. They swap arms, so whichever one was on top goes on the front rack and the other way around. And they carry it back, and then they place the dumbbells down to get into the second round. And then the numbers goes up. So now it's 12 handstand push-ups, 24 D-ball cleans, 36 pistols, They do the carry again, same distance though, so 15 meters there and back. And then the last round is 15 dumbbell handstand push-ups, 30 D-ball cleans, 45 pistols, and then they do the final carry before they run to the finish line.
Is there a standard on how they need to move on the front rack carry? Can they run?
They can run, absolutely.
Okay. Whatever you need to do is one arm stays up and the other one stays on the front rack.
Exactly. The standards we have is that the dumbbell must be above the height of their head. So that, like, I don't know if you would try, but if you go with like a bent elbow variation or whatever, it wouldn't necessarily be great. And that one must be on top of the shoulder, so to speak. So how they hold on to it is up to them. They must do it unbroken though. So if they would put it down for whatever reason, or if they trip because they're running, they would have to start again from the start of that length.
Got it. Were there any loopholes or issues? Like whenever I program stuff, I'm always thinking like, okay, how could you short this? Where are the corners as an athlete that I could cut? What's the line that I can ride on this? Is there anything that you saw in this particular event when you were putting it together, as far as like on the cleans, or as far as like, width of the feet on the cleans, or width of the hands on the handstand push-up with the dumbbells? Is there anything like that you were looking at?
Yeah, so we're using the standard box measure that was in the quarterfinals for the handstand push-ups, and the dumbbells must be placed with the inside of that. So that kind of takes care of that a little bit. On top of that, I don't think the athletes have seen that yet, but on top of that, the handstand push-up plank, if you want to call it that, is not very wide. So it actually requires a pretty virtuous movement, let's call it that, which is pretty rad.
Anything with the cleans?
No, we tested it, and like you said, you could try to go very wide to make this happen, but the problem is that, like, with that rep range and the load, even though it's not heavy, they're not going to be able to move it very efficiently. So we obviously have everything as standardized in the movement standards, where it's uncommon movement clauses. If anything looks like you're not actually doing what you're supposed to do, then we can obviously rep that and change that. But in general, we tested out many different variations, and it's doing its job, so to speak.
Yeah, Leo, on the judging side for something like this, what are you having your judges look for? Because you can do it. This one specifically, I think, has a lot of little pieces to it where there is some subjectivity. I know on the handstand push-up, it's like, okay, it's easy as long as the dumbbells are in the square, you're good. But with dumbbell handstand push-ups, they can also roll a little bit. So, like, what are you going to have the judges looking for when they're watching this event?
Yeah, I think looking at the whole event, I think this is one of the ones that Chris and I were always back and forward in terms of the judges and where should the judges be looking for, and what should we make it easier for them to kind of call the reps and call the movements, make sure that's being done correctly. Handstand push-ups was one of them initially that I said to Chris, and we kind of discussed it a bit as well. I said, no problem, let's use the box for the handstand push-ups as for the quarterfinals. I think that'll kind of cancel itself out or play in terms of the rep range, or standard rather. So we're okay there. The D-ball, like Chris said, we tested that a bit. I think the alternating helps in terms of also going through it quicker and doing the touch and go, which we want to encourage that for the athletes. Pistols, Chris, we didn't mention about the pistols into the standard there with that we have in terms of that line marker that we have. So I think that's a good omen for the judge to kind of help them and assist them. Or did he open up, or did he stand up correctly at the top of the rep? I think that will help in terms of the judges and making the judges' life easier. Yeah. And then on the front rack carry, you mentioned run. I think it could happen towards the end of the workout. We'll probably have one or two guys trying to run that just to get through, and it'll be exciting to watch. Yeah, 100%. It's going to be interesting in terms of that swap, at the halfway mark of that 15, because then they need to get back and carry on with the rest of the workout. So interesting one that you picked up there. Can they run? So yeah.
Oh man! All right, so then let's do the team version of that, Route 66.
You're gonna have the same questions again. Which I love. No, and listen, these are good discussions, because that's essentially what we also work with all the time. So when my brain explodes with something crazy and we're looking at a workout that has so many movement components, that's my first question to Leo, is like, can we judge this? Because at the end of the day, if the test is cool, that's amazing, but if it doesn't come out with the right fair fair results and the fair, judging is fair and the scoring becomes a part of what it was supposed to do, then we can't do it,
Right.
So this one did change its pace quite a few times in rep ranges and everything, in terms of testing and seeing what the movements were doing to each other. We realized that eventually it ended up with this, we had a much bigger version, or let's call it much more reps version initially. And then when we took it down to 66, it made sense to call it Route 66 simply because all of them have that, obviously. So this one is inspired by those movements. As you can see, we have 66 synchronized D-ball cleans, exactly the same standard that we spoke about for the individuals, male, female synchro, and they can swap at any time. So you can swap at 1 or 2 athletes, it doesn't matter. And that goes for the whole workout, so to speak. Then they do 66 synchro pistol squats. They do 66 synchro dumbbell snatches, one-arm dumbbell snatches. Then they do an overhead dumbbell, dumbbell overhead lunge, I should say, for 15 meters. But it's done in a specific way. So it's done that one athlete or one gender does the 15-meter length. They then run back and tag the other gender athlete who runs out to get the dumbbell and bring it back with lunges, so to speak. So they do the 15 meters back, if that makes sense.
Got it.
And then they send out the same thing for the other gender pair, so to speak. Once both pairs have done their lengths, they go into partner deadlifts, 66 partner deadlifts, heavier side for the men, lighter for the women. Total weight is 180 kilos. And they finish off with 66 male-female synchro bar-facing burpees. And those last two movements, the deadlifts and the synchro burpees, the barbell will also move across the field so that they're getting closer to the finish line. So we can get a pretty cool visual of that too.
And is the deadlift, is it same weight all the way across, or is it one of those ones where it's the heavy side and the female side and all that kind of stuff? How are you guys setting that up? Yeah,
so there's a heavier side for the men and a lighter side for the women.
Oh, so mean. So mean. I have not seen, like, I know that's has been kind of the deadlift thing that's gone through. I have never, if you see a deadlift event where Sam Dancer is getting hammered because he has the heavy side versus what the females do, you know that's a messed up way to give the guys some deadlifts. It's so unfair. And I don't know if it's a height thing, because it's not that the weight itself should be that big of a deal, but it's so off balance that it really hammers the guy on that side. It's really funny.
But we actually did take the weights down there after testing because we realized that, and also because of how it played out. We didn't want it to be that was the only thing that dictated the whole outcome of the event, So this one we think is light enough to, they'll be fine.
Again, a lot of moving pieces on this one. A lot of moving pieces on this one. Do you foresee something like this with all of these pieces, all these different moving parts, that the on the team side, that they might just mess something up because it's too much?
I don't think so. So this was one of the events where I was very happy that we had the games team as feedback, as an example, because my brain wanted the teams to move back and forth across the arena, So it was like one movement goes in one direction and the other movement goes in the other direction, and we're kind of moving forward every third of the rep range or something like that, to give it a very visual one. And they immediately gave us feedback and then said, like, you know what, that is probably going to confuse the athletes. It's smarter for you to just have one section where they do the first piece. You have a second section where they do the second piece, and so on as well. And we listened 100%. So we went with that route, which turned it into, I think, a very straightforward way of doing it. Like the equipment is laid out where you're doing it. And they can perhaps mess up something in terms of how to do it synchro, but this is obviously both demonstrated and briefed very clearly when we do it. But they should not necessarily be confused with what they should be doing next, so to speak.
That's actually really cool that that HQ is able to give you some outside feedback. Because I mean, when you look at this on paper, it's like there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, obviously, I'd have to look at what it looks like on the floor when you guys do the briefing. I'm sure it would make a lot more sense. But when you look at it right here, it just, man, there's things all over the place. There's shoulders and squats and snatches and lunges and deadlifts and burpees and all this stuff. So it'll be fun to watch how they put that together. And then I'm probably for you guys to see, what your initial mindset was versus what it looks like when they actually do it. It should be pretty cool.
Absolutely.
All right. So we are on our final test for the individuals here. 3, 2, 1, go. What? No, I take that back. The Frannels. Oh, the Frannels. Jeez. Oh, man. But I have to say, anytime you have a final and you end up on something that is fast and furious like this, that just ramps up the excitement. So give us this one.
Leo, you want to read it? Should I?
Yeah, you can read it. I don't have it in front of me yet, but I know all I want to say about it, I don't think you can have ever an event without some sort of Fran variation. That's pretty much where Chris gets his inspiration from. He loves Fran.
Ew.
It was my one and only good workout when I was an athlete, so that's probably why.
All right, so lay this one out for us.
Yeah, so we have obviously the finals are Fran inspired. As you can see, it's 21 toes to bar, 21 thrusters with a heavier than Fran weight, but not super heavy. So it's 50, 35 kilos or 110 and 75 pounds. 15 toes to bar, 15 thrusters, the same weights. Now they will move the bar forward after the 21 thrusters. There's a second spot for them to move it on the 15 as you usually see. They go straight into 9 bar muscle ups. And then they move over that first bar to a second bar, which is heavier loaded thrusters for 9 thrusters at 75 kilos and 50 kilos. So 165 and 110 pounds. 6 bar muscle ups, 6 thrusters, 3 bar muscle ups, 3 thrusters, jump over the bar if your legs can handle it, and go to the finish line.
Oh, man. When you guys tested this, what kind of time frame were you looking at? I know you have 7-minute time cap on here, but what do you think your top athletes will be hitting?
They'll be going close to about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe. I listen, if someone, and that's what I'm saying. When you put these workouts out there and you're looking and you're like, I would definitely break that one there. But these guys, they have such capacity to hold on and just move that maybe we even see down, 3.5, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And at the same time, what we did do, because this one, I think we changed the weights a few times. We were playing around with different variations of rep ranges and all these kind of things. And I'm very happy with this variation because I think that this one is, again, it's not a max thruster, but it will definitely separate the guys that has the max strength at that end, at those end rep ranges there for the 6s and 3s. Yeah. And the guys who can hold on, they'll crush it. And the guys who can start breaking, they obviously be slower.
Yeah. Well, I do love the mix up between your gymnastic prowess and then the volume you have for the reps that you're doing. So like what you said, the 50 and 35 kilograms for the 21 and 15, the 110 and 75 for the thrusters. Yes, they'll be able to move that. That's below the weight of the quote unquote heavy Fran, which is the 135, 95. So they'll be able to run through that. And then you get into bar muscle ups and the heavier thrusters. So the 165, 110, again, it like that, even that one piece, even if you just had a 963, they should be able to move fast on there, but you're definitely going to have a gymnastic. If you are a gymnastic-y type of guy or a girl, you have that in your bag so that you can deal with the thrusters, or if you're the beast, you can hammer the weight so that you can deal with the thruster or with the bar muscle. So I think that's a nice combination between the gymnastic and the bar and the barbell work for sure.
That's cool. And I think what we're trying to do there as well was it's not setting a trap because there will be athletes that can handle it, but everyone can go through the first part unbroken. Some athletes will go through the first part unbroken and realize they shouldn't have. And that's cool too, So I look forward to that. And I can tell you as an example, because you mentioned it earlier, I think there was the legless current, that there's a lot of push and pull. And one of our versions here actually had chest bars in the middle. So it's a little bit different rep ranges and so on as well. And we choose to go away from that because we don't want it to be the same function over and over again. We have muscle ups already on the rings. We have the legless rope clamps and so on as well. So there is thoughts between which movements we kind of choose to put in this final here as well to allow them to actually still be able to perform as well as possible.
Awesome. All right. And then the team final, another version of the Fantastic Four. That's a really cool name, by the way.
It's a dad joke.
That wins best named events for the weekend.
All right. So what's this one look like? What do we have?
It's double rep range in terms of if you compare it to France. So it's 42 toes to bar, 42 thrusters. Once again, these are 50 and 35 kilos, 110, 77 pounds, slightly heavier than Fran. What I should say, the way this works is that you send out either your male pair or your female pair. The teams actually get to choose in this workout which one they send out first, and then the second pair will come straight after. So it's both pairs go, but you can choose which one you start with. So as an example, you have sent out your females. They'll do 42 toes to bar that they can share any way they want to. They'll do 42 thrusters. They can share those any way they want to. They move the bar forward slightly, go back to the rig to do 30 chest to bar pull-ups, which they also share any way they want to. 30 thrusters, back to the rig, 18 bar muscle-ups, 18 thrusters over the finish line. And once they get over the finish line, the second pair gets released and they go through the same workout, but with the right weights then.
Got it. And so this one obviously didn't get changed. This is the toes to bar, the chest to bar, the bar muscle-up. So you can see the remnants of that a little bit. Another good in a fast and furious final, even on the team side. So I think that's pretty cool to see. Awesome events. I think that I really enjoy as a programmer. I enjoy seeing the process and seeing how the things are created, and what the final product of what you're trying to accomplish comes out to be, which is awesome. And I think that there are going to be some pretty fun races out of each of these. And before we kind of get to the close of the our little podcast here, what for each of you guys, which is your favorite one, and which one are you most excited to see? And we'll start with you, Chris.
It's hard. I actually made like an Instagram post about it, and it's impossible for me to say. Listen, I love tests like where they like get to really, get taken out of the comfort zone and deal with it. Yeah. So I think that the double trap is partially a favorite of mine. And I mean, I have to give Leo credit for it because it wasn't actually my first version and we had to make that up afterwards. So that one is really cool because it's like gymnastics there in the muscle ups will be cool to watch. Some guys will crush that. How do they manage the second piece with the dumbbell step overs? That's going to be a big question. So on the individuals, I don't know. I love legless Karen too, man. That's a beautiful one. But anyway, let's call it that. And then on the team side, I think, like I said, the nowhere to hide one, simply for the reason that they get to strategize around it. And I would love to see, like a top team absolutely crushing it because they had such big capacity that they were going for these big sets and the transitions were like so few that they could just fly through it in a time that is way under our time cap, because our time cap is purposely generous to let most teams have a chance of finishing it. Yeah. So I think I'm going to choose that one. I love the Fran workouts too, that. But
what about you, Leo? What about you?
Individual side, it's kind of between double trap and the Snatch Ladder. I think in terms of 2019, we had the clean ladder and it was under the lights at the stadium in Cape Town, and bringing back a little bit of that speed and adrenaline into the event. And first up on the first night, I think that's probably one of them, and definitely double trap. Chris and I have been talking about this the last couple of days as well in terms of that second piece and how the athletes kind of recover in a couple of minutes and go and do it all over again with 50 cals and the step overs. And Chris and I are kind of debating, will we see the guys that are winning event 4 also be up there winning event 5? And we're like, yeah, we don't know. So it's that kind of unknown yet, right, for us. And I think definitely from an individual's point of view, I'm excited to see that one. On the team side, I think the 100% with Chris, in terms of that synchro and that strategy with the handstand push-up one, 100%. I think that's a good one for the team to exactly know their capacity and where they can strategize great. And I think those big teams will definitely go big sets, 100%. And can't wait to see some of those guys on the handstand push-ups and the girls break out some big sets there.
Well, I love the little twist you guys have in there. So strong work, you guys, on the programming. I think it's gonna be a good show for sure.
Can I throw in a bonus, Bill? Can I throw in a bonus?
Absolutely.
I love the first test. I looked at them now while we were talking again, and the 3, 2, 1 go, that long one. I mean, listen, I'm not supposed to not love any of them, but the first one is so simple. And at the same time, it's so brutal because if you're going in with the intent of going, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, but your intent is to go at the 145 per 500 pace, and you're taking it to 143. Now, the question is that your red line or not? You're hurting like crazy, but can you maintain that and actually win the event, or will you crash and burn? And I think that those simple events, they're so cool because we don't know what's happening up in the athletes' heads, and they got to be able to ask themselves those questions. And it's a mind workout more than almost anything.
Well, aren't all the long ones like that? You're constantly flirting with that line. It's like, am I okay? You're doing like that self-assessment. You're 1 minute into, you're 2 minutes into, you're like, how am I doing? How am I doing? You're 6 minutes into, how am I doing? You're 18 minutes into it. How am I doing? If you hit the oh shit button, you're like, uh-oh. now my event is done because I'm trying to recover from all that. No, you're right. There's a lot that goes into that. And I mean, I have to say, honestly, asking a programmer what their favorite event is kind of a that's kind of a cheap shot, because I mean they're all your little babies. So like I totally get that, you know. So but I am really excited. I'm really excited to see what the true legless rope climb is going to do to the athletes and how that's going to be affected. I'm really interested to see what the team's going to do with the having to hold the dumbbells and not let them hit the ground, having to carry that around. Just those little tweaks like that, I think, are going to be really fun and interesting to see what the strategies end up being. And you set up a great platform for a lot of strategies to happen on the team side. And I think the individual side, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with those. I mean, just as far as how they handle them, because you're putting them to the test. So congratulations to you guys on some really cool events. I can't wait to watch it. Congratulations on being one of the events that actually gets to have a in-person competition and being able to make it through the whole COVID year, and, you know, coming back strong in 2021. So that's awesome.
I have to just give one shout out. There's one, and that's to Tian, our other competition director, because I mean, I'm sitting on the side and getting to do these fun things, and together with Leo, we're figuring out what's going to be the athlete's experience in the workouts. But he's the guy who's pulling it all together when it comes to, you know, get everything set up. We're building an arena in a huge warehouse in nowhere, and he's the dude who's pulling all of that together. So like he's the one who's allowing us to even do this in essence. So I just wanted to make sure he gets some recognition.
Absolutely. I mean, for you guys and all your volunteers and everyone that you guys have helping out. I mean, I know that these are no easy things to put together, and you guys have a lot. This is an important deal. It's not just, hey, let's put together a nice competition. I mean, you guys are trying to get athletes whose dream it is to compete at the CrossFit Games. I mean, that you are the facilitator for people's, you know, hopes and dreams and aspirations, you know, as athletes. So no pressure at all. You know,
it's a cool responsibility, man.
100%. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys. I'm sure you guys want to take a little bit of a break, and you guys got a lot of stuff coming up because your competition is this next weekend. So good luck with everything. We'll be watching for sure. I appreciate all the time, and I appreciate the time with us here on the show, but also just all the time you guys put together for the event. I know the athletes are going to appreciate it, and I want you guys to have a good rest of your weekend. And thanks so much for coming on the show, you guys.
Thanks so much for having us, Bill.
Hopefully see you soon in Cape Town.
Yeah, I hope to be there one time. I want to get out there. Anyway, all right, guys, take it easy.
Catch up.